3 weeks of silence can kill a marriage faster than any argument ever could. Amara knew this as she fastened the clasp of her diamond earrings, a gift from Miho's late mother, the woman who had built the Min family empire from nothing before passing it to her only son. Watching her reflection transform in the vanity mirror, the woman staring back looked dangerous tonight. Crimson lips, smoky eyes, shoulders bare except for the thin straps of a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Red, the color of passion, of warning, of blood spilled in territory wars. Miho hadn't looked at her properly in 21 days. She'd counted every single one. Their penthouse overlooking the Han River had become a mausoleum of unspoken words, each room echoing with conversations they weren't having. He'd moved into the guest suite the night after their fight, though fight was too generous a word for what happened. There had been no screaming, no thrown objects, no dramatic slamming doors. Just Miho's face going absolutely blank when he overheard her phone conversation with Jiyeon. Then the quiet click of a door closing between them. That click might as well have been a gunshot. Since then, he'd perfected the art of existing in the same space without acknowledgement. Breakfast in the kitchen while she was still asleep. Late nights at the family's import business headquarters that stretched past midnight. Messages delivered through his underboss rather than directly. Cold politeness on the rare occasions their paths crossed. The kind of courtesy you'd extend to a stranger in an elevator. It was driving her insane. Tonight, though, she had somewhere to be. Her college reunion had been circled on the calendar for months, back when things between them were still warm, still alive. Back when Miho would have helped zip up this dress, his fingers lingering on her spine, his breath hot against her neck as he murmured all the reasons she should stay home instead. Amara stood, smoothing the fabric over her hips. The dress fit like it had been painted on, which was exactly the point. Let him ignore this. Her heels clicked against the marble as she descended the grand staircase, each step deliberate. The chandelier above, imported from Italy during his grandfather's reign, cast prismatic light across the foyer. Somewhere in the house, she could hear the low murmur of Miho's voice, probably on yet another encrypted call about the Busan families pushing into Min territory. Another conversation he wouldn't share with her. But then the voice stopped. She was halfway down when she felt it. The weight of his gaze, heavy as a physical touch. Her fingers tightened on the banister, but she didn't look up. Didn't give him the satisfaction. Just kept moving, kept breathing, kept pretending her heart wasn't trying to hammer its way out of her chest. Where do you think you're going dressed like that? His voice cut through the silence like a blade. Low, dangerous, edged with something she hadn't heard in weeks. Korean rolled off his tongue when he was angry, but he always spoke to her in English, the language of her childhood in New York before her family's business dealings brought her to Seoul. Amara paused, one foot hovering above the final step. Slowly, deliberately, she raised her eyes to find Miho standing in the doorway of his study, shoulders filling the frame, arms crossed over his chest. He looked furious. Good. Out. She stepped down onto the marble, meeting his stare without flinching. My college reunion. Remember? It's been on the calendar for 3 months. Like hell you are. Miho moved then, crossing the distance between them with the predatory grace that had first drawn her to him 6 years ago, back when he was just another dangerous heir learning the family business, with connections that ran deeper than blood and eyes that promised sin. Before the empire fully became his, before the power consumed him, before everything got so complicated, before she'd said those words she couldn't take back. He stopped 2 feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke, and something uniquely him that made her knees weak even after 6 years of marriage. Close enough to touch, but the air between them crackled with 3 weeks of unspoken rage. "You're not walking out of this house dressed like that," he said, each word carefully controlled. "Not to see a bunch of men who'll spend the entire night undressing you with their eyes." Amara laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. "Now you care what I wear. Now you notice I exist. Don't test me tonight, Amara." "Or what?" She stepped closer, invading his space the way he'd invaded hers. "You'll give me the silent treatment? Oh wait, you've been doing that for 3 weeks already. Tell me, mijo, how exactly will I know the difference?" A muscle jumped in his jaw. Those dark eyes of his swept down her body, lingering on the plunging neckline, the curve of her waist, the dangerous slit that showed too much thigh. When his gaze returned to her face, something feral burned there. "Who are you dressing up for?" "Maybe someone who will actually look at me," she shot back. "Someone who will touch me. Someone who won't act like I'm a ghost in my own damn house." The words hung between them, loaded and lethal. Miho's hands flexed at his sides, and Amara watched the war play out across his face. Fury and hurt and possessive rage all tangled together into something explosive. "You don't mean that, don't I?" She grabbed her clutch from the foyer table, her movements sharp with frustration. "You haven't said more than 10 words to me in weeks. You won't eat with me, won't sleep in the same room, won't even look at me unless you absolutely have to. So forgive me if I'm a little curious about what it might feel like to be wanted again." She turned toward the door, her hand reaching for the handle. Miho moved faster than thought. 1 second she was walking away. The next she was pinned against the marble column beside the entrance, his body pressed against hers, his hands bracketing her face. The clutch clattered to the floor, forgotten. "Don't." His voice was ragged now, all that careful control shredding at the edges. His breath was hot against her lips, their faces so close she could count his eyelashes, could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the thundering of his heart through the thin barrier of their clothes. Amara's chest heaved, her back pressed against cool marble, every nerve ending suddenly, violently alive after weeks of numbness. "Don't what?" she whispered. "Don't leave? Don't want to feel something again? Don't get tired of being invisible?" Miho's thumb traced her cheekbone, achingly gentle despite the fury radiating from him. "You were never invisible. Then why?" Her voice cracked. "Why have you been treating me like I don't exist?" His jaw clenched. For a moment, she thought he'd retreat again, rebuild those walls he'd constructed so carefully between them. But then something shifted in his expression, pain breaking through anger like light through storm clouds. "Because I heard you, Amara." Each word seemed dragged from somewhere deep. "On the phone with Jiyeon. You said you felt trapped, that this marriage was suffocating you, that you didn't know how much longer you could." He stopped, throat working as he swallowed hard. Understanding crashed over her like ice water. "You heard that." She pressed her palms against his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath the crisp fabric of his shirt. "That's why you've been." "Miho, you didn't hear the rest of the conversation." "I heard enough." His hands slid down to her shoulders, fingers tightening. "I heard my wife tell her best friend she wanted out." "No." Amara shook her head, tears pricking her eyes. "God, no. That's not what I meant at all." "Then what did you mean?" The question came out broken. "Because I've been going insane trying to figure out what I did wrong. Trying to give you space. trying to prepare myself for the day you actually leave. Her heart shattered. This man, this powerful, dangerous man who commanded a criminal empire and inspired fear in hardened gangsters, looked absolutely terrified of losing her. I felt trapped by your walls, you idiot. Not by our marriage. She cupped his face, forcing him to maintain eye contact. You started shutting me out months ago. Working later, sharing less, building this distance between us. I told Gion I felt trapped outside your life, not trapped in our marriage. I've been dying for you to let me back in. Miho went very still. What? Every time I tried to ask about your day, you'd deflect. Every time I suggested we take a weekend away, you had urgent men family business. You started treating me like an obligation instead of your wife. The tears spilled over now. I felt trapped on the wrong side of the walls you built. I wasn't talking about leaving you. I was talking about feeling like I'd already lost you. His eyes closed. When they opened again, they were glassy with unshed tears. I thought I was protecting you. From what? From the reality of what I do. The violence. The territory wars. The constant danger. His forehead dropped to hers. Things have been escalating with the Busan families. The Kims, the Parks, even some of the old Jeju clans are trying to move in on our operations. I didn't want you touched by any of it. Didn't want you to look at me and see a monster. So you just disappeared on me instead. I thought I was being noble. A bitter laugh escaped him. Turns out I was just being a coward. Amara's fingers threaded through his hair, tugging slightly. You absolute fool. I married you knowing exactly who you are. I married into the Min family with my eyes open. I don't need protection from your world. I need you to stop shutting me out of it. I thought I was losing you. His voice broke completely. These 3 weeks have been hell. Every morning I woke up terrified it would be the day you packed your bags. Every night I lay awake knowing you were just down the hall, but might as well have been on another planet. You were losing me, she admitted. Just not the way you thought. I was drowning in your silence. Miho pulled back slightly, his hands framing her face like she was something precious and fragile, something he'd nearly destroyed through his own stupidity. I'm sorry. God, Amara, I'm so sorry. I was so sure you wanted space that I gave you an ocean. And then tonight, his voice dropped, rough with emotion and desire. Seeing you in this dress, looking so beautiful it hurts to breathe, about to walk into a room full of men who'd kill for a chance. There's only one man I want, she interrupted. But he's been sleeping in the guest room for 3 weeks. Something shifted in his expression. The fear melted away, replaced by heat that made her knees weak. His gaze dropped to her lips, then lower, tracking the plunging neckline of her dress with undisguised hunger. This dress, he murmured, voice going rough. Were you really wearing it for them? No. She smiled slightly. I was wearing it for you. One last desperate attempt to make you see me again. I see you. His thumb brushed her lower lip. I've seen every inch of you for 6 years, and I'm still not satisfied. Still starving for more. Then stop starving yourself. She arched against him. Stop punishing us both. Miho made a sound low in his throat, half growl, half surrender. Then his mouth crashed against hers. 3 weeks of desperate longing poured into one searing kiss. Amara gasped against his lips, her body igniting like he'd struck a match to gasoline. This was what she'd been craving. Not the polite distance. Not the careful avoidance. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Miho rested his forehead against hers. His chest heaved against her body, and she could feel his heart racing as fast as her own. The reunion, she whispered, though the words felt meaningless now. Forget the reunion. His lips traced her jaw, sending shivers down her spine. You're not going anywhere tonight. Possessive much? When it comes to you? He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. Always. Especially when you're wearing a dress designed to start wars. Amara couldn't help the laugh that bubbled up. It worked, didn't it? Got you talking to me again. Dangerous game you were playing. His hands slid down to her hips, thumbs tracing small circles through the thin fabric. What if I'd actually let you walk out that door? Then I would have spent the entire night miserable, checking my phone every 5 minutes, hoping you'd call. She traced the line of his jaw. I don't want anyone else, Miho. I never have. I just wanted my husband back. Something in his expression crumbled. I've been such an idiot. Yes, you have. She kissed him softly. But so have I. I should have confronted you directly instead of venting to Jiyeon where you might overhear. I should have asked you what you meant instead of assuming the worst and shutting down. He sighed heavily. We're both disasters at communication. Clearly. Her fingers worked at his tie, loosening it. Maybe we should practice getting better at it. Starting when? His voice dropped an octave as she slid the tie free. Starting after you take me upstairs and show me exactly how much you've missed me. Miho's eyes darkened. In one fluid motion, he swept her up into his arms, cradling her against his chest like she weighed nothing. Amara yelped, then laughed, wrapping her arms around his neck. What are you doing? Making up for 3 weeks of stupidity. He headed for the staircase. Fair warning, this might take a while. I've got all night. She pressed her lips to his throat, feeling his pulse jump. And tomorrow. And the day after that. Good. He took the stairs 2 at a time, his strength effortless. Because I plan to spend significant time worshiping every inch of this dress before I spend even more time getting you out of it. Heat pooled low in her stomach. I like this plan. You'll love the execution. He shouldered through the door to their bedroom. Their actual bedroom, not the guest suite he'd been exiling himself to. The space felt almost foreign after weeks of sleeping alone, but familiar in all the ways that mattered. Their books on the nightstand, her perfume bottles on the dresser, his collection of vintage watches in the corner. Evidence of a shared life she'd been terrified of losing. Miho set her down gently beside the bed, his hands immediately finding her waist again, like he couldn't bear to stop touching her. I meant what I said earlier. You were never invisible to me. Then why did it feel that way? Because I'm an idiot who thought distance would keep you safe. He traced the strap of her dress with one finger. Every time I looked at you, I wanted to tell you everything. Every dangerous deal, every threat, every nightmare keeping me up at night. But I convinced myself that knowing less would protect you more. Protect me from what? Being your partner? She covered his hand with hers. I didn't marry you to be kept in the dark. I married you to be by your side through everything. Even the ugly parts. Especially those. She turned his hand over, tracing the scar across his palm from a knife fight 3 years ago during a territory dispute with a Busan crew. You think I don't know what your world looks like? I see the guards, the encrypted phones, the late-night meetings with men who have blood on their hands. I'm not naive, Miho. I just want to be included. He was quiet for a long moment, studying their intertwined hands. The Busan families have been pushing into our territory. The Kims specifically. There have been threats, violence. 2 of my men ended up in the hospital last month. One of them, he swallowed hard. One of them has a wife and 3 kids. I know. At his startled look, she smiled sadly. I have eyes, Miho. I notice when you come home with blood on your cuffs even after you've tried to wash it off. I notice when you take calls at 3 in the morning and come back to bed tense. I notice everything about you. Why didn't you say anything? Because you clearly didn't want to talk about it. Her voice softened. I kept waiting for you to trust me enough to open up. Instead, you just pulled further away. Miho cupped her face, his expression anguished. I trust you with my life. With everything. I just didn't want to burden you with the weight of it all. Marriage means carrying that weight together. She leaned into his touch. Your burdens are mine. Your dangers are mine. Your world is mine because I chose it. I chose you, knowing exactly what came with it. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled. But you're stuck with me anyway. Promise. The vulnerability in his voice nearly broke her. I promise. She rose on her toes, brushing her lips against his. No more secrets. No more distance. No more sleeping in separate rooms and pretending we're okay when we're falling apart. No more, he agreed roughly. From now on, we face everything together. Everything, she confirmed. His kiss was different this time. Slower, deeper, weighted with promise and apology and desperate relief. Amara melted into him, feeling 3 weeks of ice finally thaw between them. When he reached for the zipper of her dress, his hands trembled slightly. Still nervous around me after 6 years? She teased gently. Terrified, he admitted. Terrified of losing this. Losing you. Screwing up again. Then don't. She guided his hands to the zipper. Stop overthinking. Stop protecting me from yourself. Just be with me. The zipper whispered down her spine, cool air hitting her skin. Miho's fingers followed its path, reverent and slow, like he was memorizing every vertebra. The dress loosened, slipping forward, and Amara caught it against her chest. 3 weeks is a long time, she murmured, watching his face. I missed this. Missed you touching me like I'm something precious. You are. His voice was rough velvet. The most precious thing in my world. She let the dress fall. Red silk pooled at her feet, and Miho's breath caught audibly. His gaze swept over her, the black lace underneath, the curve of her waist, the long expanse of her legs in those dangerous heels. When his eyes met hers again, they burned. 3 weeks, he repeated, voice strained. 3 weeks of torture, knowing you were down the hall, wanting you so badly I couldn't think straight. You could have come to me any time. She stepped closer, her fingers working the buttons of his shirt. I would have let you in. I didn't think I deserved to. He sucked in a breath as her hands slid under the fabric, palms flat against his chest. Thought you hated me. I could never hate you. Button by button, she revealed smooth skin and hard muscle. Frustrated? Yes. Hurt? Absolutely. But hate? Impossible. His shirt joined her dress on the floor. Amara traced old scars she knew by heart. The bullet grazed below his ribs from a shootout 2 years ago. The knife wound on his shoulder from protecting her at a family gathering that turned violent. The faded marks from a childhood she'd only heard about in pieces. Each one a story, a piece of the complicated man she'd fallen in love with. I want to know about the Kims, she said quietly. About the threats. About everything you've been carrying alone. Miho caught her hands, pressing them against his heart. Later. Right now I need to focus on you. On us. On making up for 3 weeks of being an absolute fool. We have time for both. We have the rest of our lives for both. He lifted her hands to his lips, kissing each knuckle. But tonight, I need to show you something I should have been showing you every day. That you're wanted. That you're seen. That you're mine, and I'm yours, and nothing else matters. Her breath hitched. Miho, I love you. The words tumbled out raw and urgent. I love you so much it terrifies me. When I thought I might lose you, I couldn't breathe, couldn't function. These 3 weeks have been the worst of my life because I caused my own hell. Tears pricked her eyes again. I love you too. Even when you're being an idiot. Even when you're shutting me out. Even when I want to strangle you. Especially then. Especially then. She smiled through the tears. Because underneath all the walls and silence and stupid masculine pride, you're still the man who brought me coffee every morning during finals week. Who learned to cook my grandmother's recipes because you knew I missed her. Who holds me through nightmares and makes me laugh when I'm stressed and looks at me like I'm the only person in the world who matters. His thumb caught a tear sliding down her cheek. You are the only person who matters. My empire, my power, my reputation, none of it means anything without you. Then stop pushing me away when things get hard. Never again. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. I swear to you, Amara. No more distance. No more silence. We're a team. Partners, she agreed. In everything. His lips found hers again, and this kiss held a different energy. Not desperate or apologetic, but grounding, claiming. A promise sealed with touch. Amara's hand slid up his chest, over his shoulders, threading through his hair as she pressed closer. Miho made a low sound of approval, his arms banding around her waist, lifting her until her legs wrapped around him instinctively. He turned, laying her on the bed with a gentleness that contradicted the hunger in his eyes. The silk sheets were cool against her skin as he followed her down, his weight settling over her in a way that felt like coming home. Still want to go to that reunion? He asked against her throat. What reunion? She arched into him, gasping as his lips found the sensitive spot below her ear. I have no idea what you're talking about. His laugh was dark and satisfied. Good answer. Besides, she tugged him closer, hooking her legs around his waist. I have much better plans for tonight. Tell me. His hands mapped her ribs, her waist, the curve of her hip. I want to hear you say it. I plan to remind my husband exactly what he's been missing. Her nails dragged lightly down his back, making him shudder. I plan to make him beg for forgiveness. I'm already begging. Not enough. She rolled them suddenly, using his surprise to flip their positions until she straddled his hips, looking down at him. This powerful, dangerous man, head of one of Seoul's most influential families, completely at her mercy. The thrill of it sent heat rushing through her veins. You put me through 3 weeks of hell, Miho. You don't get off that easy. His hands gripped her thighs, eyes dark with want. Then punish me. Make me earn my way back into your good graces. Oh, I intend to. She leaned down, her hair falling like a curtain around them. All night long. Amara. She kissed him before he could finish, pouring every ounce of love and frustration and desperate need into it. His hands roamed her back, pulling her closer, and she felt the last of the walls between them finally, completely crumble. Hours later, Amara lay tangled in sheets that smelled like them. Sweat and perfume, and the aftermath of desperation finally satisfied. Miho's arm was draped across her waist, his chest pressed against her back, his breathing steady and warm against her neck. The city lights filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across their bedroom. Everything felt different now, lighter, like they'd finally broken through to the other side of something that had been suffocating them both. You awake? Miho's voice was rough with exhaustion. She laced her fingers through his. Barely. You wore me out. Good. He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. I have 3 weeks to make up for. That was just the beginning. She laughed softly, snuggling deeper into his embrace. I'm holding you to that. They lay in comfortable silence for a moment, just breathing together, existing in the same space without walls or distance or fear. Tell me about the Kims, Amara asked quietly. Please, I want to know what's been keeping you up at night. Miho tensed slightly behind her, but didn't pull away. Progress. The Kim family has been making moves into our shipping operations. They want control of the port routes we've maintained for a decade. How bad is it? Bad enough that I've had to triple security. Bad enough that I've been carrying a gun even inside the house. He paused. Bad enough that I was terrified they might use you to get to me. She turned in his arms to face him. Is that why you pushed me away? Partly. His hand cupped her cheek. I thought if they saw distance between us, you'd be less of a target. Idiotic logic, I know. Extremely idiotic. She kissed his palm. If anything, me being isolated and alone would have made me more vulnerable. I realize that now. He looked pained. I wasn't thinking clearly, just reacting out of fear. So what's the plan? How do we handle the Kims? His eyebrows rose. We? Yes, we. She poked his chest. You just promised we're a team. Partners in everything. So what's our strategy? Miho studied her face, something like wonder crossing his features. You really want to be involved in this? I really want my husband to stop treating me like I'm made of glass. She sat up slightly, the sheet pooling around her waist. I can handle knowing about the dangers. What I can't handle is being kept in the dark while you shoulder everything alone. He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. We're negotiating. There's a meeting scheduled in 3 days. Neutral territory. Mediators present. If we can come to terms on territory division, the violence stops. And if you can't, then things escalate. His jaw tightened, which is why I've been so stressed. Every decision I make affects not just me, but you, our people, our future. Then let me help you make those decisions. She threaded her fingers through his hair. 2 heads are better than 1, and I'm smarter than you give me credit for. I know exactly how smart you are. He pulled her back down against him. That's not the issue. The issue is me being a controlling idiot who thought isolation equaled protection. Reformed idiot, she teased. Working on it. He kissed her temple. I promise to include you from now on. In everything. The good, the bad, the dangerous. That's all I ask. She traced patterns on his chest. Well, that and for you to never sleep in the guest room again. Never again, he agreed fervently. I'd rather sleep on the floor in here than spend another night in that room without you. Drama queen. You're drama queen. He rolled them so he was hovering over her again, his weight supported on his forearms. For better or worse, remember? I remember. She smiled up at him, heart full. Through crime wars and communication failures and stubborn masculine pride. That wasn't in our vows. It was implied. Her hand slid down his back. Miho. I'm sorry too. For not being direct about my feelings. For letting you overhear something out of context instead of just telling you I felt disconnected. We're both sorry. He kissed her softly. We're both learning. We're both going to screw up again, probably. But as long as we keep talking, keep fighting for this. He gestured between them. We'll be okay. We'll be better than okay. She pulled him down for a deeper kiss. We'll be unstoppable. Unstoppable. He repeated against her lips. I like the sound of that. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy. Cars honking. Sirens wailing. The pulse of life continuing regardless of personal dramas. But inside their bedroom, wrapped in each other and sheets and renewed promises, Amara felt like they'd found something precious they'd almost lost. The reunion's probably over by now, she murmured eventually. Shame. Miho didn't sound sorry at all. You miss seeing all your old friends. Worth it. She traced his jawline. I'd rather spend the night reconciling with my husband than reminiscing with people I haven't talked to in years. Even in that incredible red dress. The dress served its purpose. She grinned. Got your attention, didn't it? You always have my attention. He brushed hair back from her face. Even when I'm being an idiot and pretending otherwise. You're all I think about, Amara. All I want. All I need. Then show me. She pulled him closer again. His laugh was low and warm. Demanding tonight, aren't you? I have 3 weeks of demands. Her smile turned wicked. Hope you're prepared. For you. Miho kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Always. And as the city lights painted shadows across their intertwined bodies, both of them knew they'd survived the storm. Stronger together. Exactly as they were always meant to be. 3 days later, Amara sat in the passenger seat of Miho's armored Mercedes as they drove through Seoul's business district. The morning sun glinted off glass towers, and the streets buzzed with the controlled chaos of a city that never truly slept. You don't have to come, Miho said for the 3rd time, his hand tightening on the steering wheel. This meeting could go sideways fast. Which is exactly why I'm coming. Amara adjusted the collar of her cream blouse, deliberately professional today instead of provocative. You promised. No more shutting me out. He exhaled slowly. I know. You're worried. She placed her hand over his on the wheel. I understand. But I'm not some delicate flower who'll wilt at the first sign of conflict. I've been around your world long enough to know how these things work. Miho glanced at her, something softening in his expression. You're wearing your armor. She smiled slightly. The blouse and tailored pants were far from the red dress that had started their reconciliation 3 nights ago, but they made their own statement. Elegant. Composed. The wife of a powerful man who knew exactly what she was walking into. If we're going to present a united front, I need to look the part. You look perfect. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Just stay close to me. And if things get heated, I know the protocol. She squeezed his hand. Trust me. I do. He lifted her hand to his lips briefly before returning both hands to the wheel. More than anyone. They pulled into the underground parking garage of a high-rise hotel in Gangnam, the kind of place where businessmen made deals over expensive whiskey and nobody asked too many questions. 4 of Miho's men were already waiting by the elevator, dressed in dark suits that couldn't quite hide the weapons they carried. His underboss, Jay, stepped forward as they exited the car. Boss. Mrs. Min. Jay nodded respectfully to both of them. The Kims are already upstairs. They brought 6 men. Expected. Miho's hand found the small of Amara's back. Security? Tight. The mediator's people did a full sweep. No weapons allowed in the conference room itself, but both families have men stationed outside. Good. Miho's jaw was set, his entire demeanor shifting into what Amara privately called his boss mode. Colder. Sharper. The man who commanded respect through presence alone. But his hand never left her back as they rode the elevator to the 15th floor. The conference room was expansive, all glass walls and modern furniture that screamed corporate neutrality. A long table dominated the center, and seated on the far side were 5 men in expensive suits. The Kim family. At the head sat Kim Tae-jun, the patriarch. Late 50s, silver streaking his hair, eyes like chips of ice. Amara had seen his photo in the news, always attached to legitimate business ventures, never to the criminal empire everyone knew he controlled. Beside him sat his eldest son, Kim Doyen, who would inherit the family business. And next to him, two lieutenants Amara didn't recognize. The fifth man stood apart, older, dressed in traditional robes despite the modern setting. The mediator, probably. Someone respected by both families, someone whose word carried weight in the underground. All eyes turned to them as they entered. Taijun's gaze skimmed over Miho, then landed on Amara. His eyebrows rose slightly. "Min Miho," he said in Korean, his voice smooth. "You brought your wife to a business meeting?" "My wife accompanies me to all important meetings." Miho's response was delivered in the same language, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Is that a problem?" Taijun's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Not at all. Simply unexpected." They took their seats across from the Kims. Amara settled beside Miho, her posture straight, her expression pleasant but unreadable. She'd learned years ago how to wear the mask of a crime boss's wife, present but seemingly irrelevant, decorative but not threatening. It was amazing what people said when they thought you weren't paying attention. The mediator, who introduced himself as Elder Song, opened the discussion. "We are here to address the territorial disputes between the Min and Kim families. Specifically, the shipping routes through Busan Port and the distribution networks in southern Seoul. The Min family has controlled those routes for 3 generations," Miho said calmly. "Since my grandfather's time. Times change." Doyen spoke up, his voice carrying his father's arrogance. "Your family's influence has been slipping. Perhaps it's time for new management." Amara felt Miho tense beside her, though his expression never changed. "Our operations are as strong as ever," Miho replied. "The only slipping I've noticed is your family's respect for established boundaries." Taijun held up a hand, silencing his son. "Let's speak plainly, Min Miho. You're stretched thin. The Jeju clans are pushing from the south. The Incheon families are testing your northern borders. And now we're moving into your shipping operations." He leaned forward. "You can't fight on 3 fronts. So here's my offer. Give us 40% of the Busan routes. In exchange, we'll help you handle the Jeju problem." 40%? Miho's laugh was cold. "You're asking me to hand over nearly half my family's legacy for your help with a problem you probably instigated in the first place." Careful with accusations, Taijun's voice hardened. "Then be careful with your proposals." Miho's hand remained steady on the table. "I'll give you 10% of the routes. In exchange, you pull back your men from southern Seoul entirely and stay out of the Jeju situation." 10%? Doyen scoffed. "That's insulting." "It's generous," Miho countered. "Considering you currently have 0% and are losing men trying to take what isn't yours." The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Taijun's expression darkened. "Perhaps you don't understand your position, Min Miho. You're not your grandfather. You're not even your father. You're young, relatively inexperienced, and according to my sources, his eyes flicked to Amara again, distracted by domestic issues. Amara's stomach tightened, but she kept her face neutral. Miho's voice went very quiet. "Dangerously so. My personal life is none of your concern. Everything is my concern when I'm evaluating a potential business partner's stability." Taijun smiled. "A man who can't maintain harmony in his own home is hardly equipped to run a criminal empire." "Sir," Elder Song intervened, "personal attacks are not productive." "It's not an attack. It's an observation." Taijun steepled his fingers. "I hear you've been sleeping in separate rooms. That the beautiful Mrs. Min here was planning to leave you." that your marriage is a facade held together by pride and paperwork. Amara watched fury flash across Miho's face before he locked it down. His hand under the table found hers, gripping tight. But it was Amara who spoke, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Mr. Kim." She switched to flawless Korean, and every head swiveled toward her. "I'm curious about your sources. Because anyone claiming to have insight into my marriage is either lying to you or so desperate for your approval that they'll fabricate stories." Taijun blinked, clearly not expecting her to speak, much less challenge him. Amara continued, her smile pleasant and deadly. "My husband and I are very much united. Any temporary discord, which happens in every marriage, has been resolved. But I appreciate your concern for our domestic harmony. It's almost touching, if it weren't so transparent." "Transparent?" Taijun's voice cooled. "You're using personal gossip to rattle my husband because you know your negotiating position is weak." She leaned forward slightly. "You want 40% of routes you can't take by force. You want the Min family to believe they're vulnerable, so they'll accept a bad deal. It's a basic intimidation tactic, Mr. Kim. And frankly, I expected better from someone of your reputation." Silence fell over the room. Doyen looked like he wanted to interrupt, but his father held up a hand, his eyes locked on Amara with new interest. "You're more perceptive than I gave you credit for, Mrs. Min. Most people make that mistake." She smiled. "It's one of my greatest advantages." Elder Song cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should return to the actual terms." 20%, Amara said suddenly, "of the Busan routes. Not 40, not 10, 20. Miho's hand tightened on hers, but he remained silent, letting her continue. "In exchange," she went on, "the Kim family withdraws from southern Seoul entirely and provides information about who's funding the Jeju clans. Not military support, information. Because we both know you've been gathering intelligence on the situation." Taijun studied her. "And what makes you think I have that information?" "Because you're smart. You wouldn't move against the Min family without understanding all the players involved. You know exactly who's backing Jeju and why." She tilted her head. "The question is whether you're smart enough to turn this into a mutually beneficial arrangement instead of a prolonged war that costs both families blood and money." 20% is still significant, Doyen protested. "And the information we're requesting is valuable," Amara countered. "Plus, you maintain a professional relationship with the Min family instead of making permanent enemies. In our world, Mr. Kim, allies are worth more than territory. Today's enemy could be tomorrow's only lifeline." Taijun was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. A real smile, not the cold calculation from before. "Min Miho," he said, "you married well." Miho's voice was steady, pride evident beneath the control. "I'm aware." 20%, Taijun mused. "Complete withdrawal from southern Seoul. Intelligence on the Jeju backers. And in return, a ceasefire," Amara said. "Respect for boundaries. And the possibility of future cooperation when interests align. You drive a hard bargain, Mrs. Min. I learned from the best." She glanced at Miho. "My husband's grandfather once said that the most dangerous negotiations are the ones where everyone walks away happy. Because that means everyone got exactly what they secretly wanted." Taijun laughed, genuine amusement in his voice. "Wise man. I met him once, decades ago. He would be proud of his grandson's choice in a wife." He extended his hand across the table. "We have a deal." Miho shook it firmly, Then Elder Song produced documents that had clearly been prepared in advance, waiting only for final terms to be filled in. As they signed, Taijun leaned back in his chair. A word of advice, Min Miho. Listen to your wife more often. She sees things clearly. I'm learning that, Miho replied. And Mrs. Min? Taijun's eyes found hers. If you ever tire of the Min family, the Kims would welcome someone with your talents. Amara smiled sweetly. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Kim, but I'm exactly where I want to be. The meeting concluded with surprisingly little additional conflict. Hands were shaken. Subtle threats were exchanged disguised as pleasantries. And then the Kim family departed with their men, leaving the Mints alone with Elder Song. That was unexpected, the old man said, gathering his papers. In 40 years of mediating, I've rarely seen a negotiation turn on the words of someone not at the table. My wife is always at the table, Miho said firmly, even when others can't see it. Elder Song smiled. Then you're wiser than most. Young men keep listening to her. She may save your life one day. When they were finally alone in the conference room, Miho turned to Amara. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he cupped her face and kissed her, hard and deep and full of things words couldn't express. That, he said when they broke apart, was incredible. That was me being your partner. She smiled. Like I've been trying to tell you. I'm an idiot. We've established this. She straightened his tie, which had gone crooked. But you're my idiot. 20%, he mused. You gave them double what I offered. Because 10% would have been insulting and 40% would have been capitulation. 20% is the uncomfortable middle ground where both sides feel like they compromised. She traced his jaw. Plus, we got the intelligence we actually needed. That information about Jeju's backers is worth more than the territory. How did you know they'd have it? Because Kim Tae-jun is exactly like you. She smiled. Paranoid, well-informed, and 3 steps ahead of everyone else. He wouldn't make a move without knowing the full board. Miho's eyes searched hers. Have you been studying negotiation tactics? I've been studying your world for 6 years. I told you, Miho. I see everything. I just needed you to let me use what I see. He rested his forehead against hers. From now on, you're in every meeting, every decision, everything, 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 he confirmed. You're right. We're stronger together. I was so focused on protecting you that I didn't realize you could protect us both. So no more guest room? Never again. He kissed her softly. And no more treating you like you're separate from this life. You're the center of it. The center of everything. Have you ever felt stronger after surviving something that nearly broke you? As they left the hotel, Jay fell into step beside them. Boss, Mrs. Min. That was... I didn't expect. Expect what? Miho asked. Jay looked at Amara with something like awe. I didn't expect her to negotiate like she was born into this life. She was born for this life, Miho corrected. I just forgot for a while. In the car on the way home, Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Jion. Heard you skipped the reunion for makeup sex. Worth it? Amara smiled and typed back. That, and I just negotiated a peace treaty with the Kim family. So yes, definitely worth it. Jion's response was immediate. What? You're telling me everything over drinks tomorrow. Jion. Miho guessed, seeing her smile. She wants details. About the negotiation or about us? Both, probably. Amara put her phone away. She's been worried about me. I'm sorry I gave her reason to worry. Miho. She waited until he glanced at her. Stop apologizing. We're past it. We're moving forward. He nodded, but his grip on the steering wheel remained tight. The red dress. What about it? If you hadn't worn that dress 3 nights ago, he trailed off. If you'd actually gone to that reunion. But I didn't. She covered his hand. I wore it for you. Because I wanted you to see me. And you did. I always saw you, he said quietly. I just convinced myself that seeing you meant keeping you at a distance. Keeping you safe from the ugly parts of my world. There are no ugly parts of your world that I can't handle. She squeezed his hand. I'm tougher than I look. I'm beginning to understand that. He brought her hand to his lips. You terrified Kim Tae-jun. I doubt that. No, you did. I saw it in his eyes when you called out his manipulation tactics. He wasn't expecting intelligence and steel underneath that beautiful face. Most people don't. She smiled. It's my secret weapon. Our secret weapon, he corrected. From now on. When they arrived home, Miho pulled her close in the foyer, the same spot where 3 nights ago everything had changed. Thank you, he whispered against her hair. For what? For not giving up on me. On us. For wearing that damn red dress and forcing me to face what I was losing. Thank you for finally seeing me. She pulled back to look at him. The real me. Not the porcelain doll you married, but the woman who's strong enough to stand beside you. I see you, he promised, and I'm never looking away again. That night, as they lay tangled together in their bed, their shared bed where they belonged, Amara traced lazy patterns on Miho's chest. Tell me about your grandfather, she said softly. The one Kim Tae-jun mentioned. Miho was quiet for a moment. He built this empire from nothing, came from poverty, worked his way up through sheer force of will and strategic brilliance. By the time he died, he controlled half of Seoul's underground operations. You miss him? Every day? He taught me everything about this life. About power, respect, loyalty. His hand found hers on his chest. But he also taught me about love. He adored my grandmother. Used to say she was the reason he built the empire, to give her the life she deserved. That's beautiful. She was involved in everything too. Not publicly, but she made most of the strategic decisions behind the scenes. My grandfather always said she was smarter than all his advisors combined. He turned his head to look at her. You would have liked her, and she would have loved you. Because I negotiated with the Kims? Because you see beyond the surface. Because you're not afraid of this world. Because you make me better. He kissed her forehead. She used to tell my grandfather that a man who rules alone rules a kingdom of one. But a man who rules with a strong woman beside him rules an empire. Wise woman. She was. His arms tightened around her. I forgot that lesson. Started thinking I had to carry everything alone. That's not strength, it's stupidity. You were scared, Amara said gently. Fear makes us do stupid things. I was terrified of losing you. So I pushed you away before you could leave. He laughed bitterly. Self-fulfilling prophecy. But we caught it in time. She pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. We're still here. Still fighting. Still choosing each other. Always choosing you, he murmured. From now until forever. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, the city lights painting shadows on their walls and the future, dangerous and uncertain and full of challenges, feeling suddenly manageable because they'd face it together. The next morning, Amara woke to find Miho already dressed in a suit, his hair still damp from the shower. Early meeting? She asked, stretching. Breakfast meeting with some investors. Legitimate business, for once. He leaned down to kiss her. But I should be home by lunch. I thought maybe we could. Actually, she interrupted, I have plans. He paused. Plans. Gion. I promised her details about everything. Girl talk over coffee. Something flickered across his face. Not suspicion, but old fear trying to surface. She watched him wrestle it down. That sounds good, he said finally. You should see your friends. I've kept you isolated enough. Miho. She sat up, cupping his face. I'm having coffee with my best friend, then coming home. To you. To our life. Okay. He nodded, leaning into her touch. Okay. But call me if anything seems off, I'll call. She smiled. Security protocol. I remember. Right. He kissed her palm. I love you. I love you too. She pulled him down for a proper kiss. Now go be a terrifying crime boss. I'll be here when you get back. Promise. Promise. After he left, Amara got ready carefully. Not armor this time, but a soft sweater and jeans. Comfortable. Normal. The kind of outfit that reminded her she was still herself beneath all the danger and power. She met Jiyeon at their favorite cafe, a small place in Hongdae that served incredible lattes and minded its own business. Jiyeon practically pounced on her the moment she sat down. Okay, start from the beginning. The red dress. The negotiation. All of it. I want every detail. Amara laughed and complied, walking her through the past few days. The silence. The dress. The confrontation. The reunion. And finally, the meeting with the Kim family. Jiyeon's eyes got wider with each revelation. You negotiated with Kim Tae-jun, she hissed. The Kim Tae-jun? And you're still alive? Barely, Amara joked. But yes, it went better than expected. I can't believe Miho let you. Jiyeon stopped. Wait. No. Scratch that. I can't believe he ever tried to keep you out of it in the first place. You're brilliant. He was scared, Amara said gently. Men do stupid things when they're scared of losing what they love. So do women. You wore a dress specifically designed to torture him. Desperate times. Amara grinned. But it worked. Clearly. Jiyeon sipped her latte. So you're good now? Really good. Really good. Amara's smile softened. We still have work to do. Communication doesn't fix itself overnight. But we're committed to being better. To being partners in everything. I'm glad. Jiyeon reached across the table to squeeze her hand. I was worried about you. Those 3 weeks, you looked so lost. I felt lost. Amara squeezed back. But sometimes you have to get lost to find your way back to what matters. They talked for another hour about lighter things, work, mutual friends, a drama they'd both been watching. Normal conversation that reminded Amara she was more than just a crime boss's wife. She was a person with interests and friendships and a life beyond the danger. When she finally got home, Miho was already there, loosening his tie in their bedroom. How was Jiyeon? He asked. Shocked. Impressed. Slightly terrified on my behalf. Amara kicked off her shoes. The usual. He smiled. And how are you? Happy. She moved into his arms naturally. Tired of talking about feelings, honestly. Can we just exist for a while? We can exist. He kissed the top of her head. For as long as you want. They spent the afternoon doing nothing important. Watching a movie neither of them paid attention to. Cooking dinner together, Miho chopping vegetables while Amara managed the stove. Small, domestic moments that felt precious precisely because they were ordinary. That night, as Amara was brushing her teeth, Miho appeared in the bathroom doorway. I have a meeting next week, he said, with the Incheon families. About Northern Territory boundaries. She rinsed her mouth, catching his eye in the mirror. Want company? Actually, I was thinking you could lead it. She turned to face him. What? You're better at this than I am. Reading people, finding the middle ground, seeing the angles I miss. He leaned against the doorframe. The Incheon families are reasonable. They'll respond well to diplomatic strategy. You'd be perfect. You want me to negotiate on behalf of the Min family? I want you to negotiate for us. As my partner, my equal. He stepped closer, not as my wife tagging along, as a leader in your own right. Amara's throat tightened with emotion. You trust me that much? I trust you more than anyone. He cupped her face. You saved our marriage. You saved our deal with the Kims. You've been saving me for 6 years. I was just too proud to admit it. She kissed him, soft and deep. I'll do it. But you're coming with me. Wouldn't miss it. And Miho. She pulled back slightly. Thank you for finally seeing me as your partner. Not just in marriage, but in everything. Thank you for not giving up on me when I was too stupid to see it. They went to bed wrapped around each other, and somewhere in the night, Miho whispered against her hair, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel invisible again. You already started, she whispered back. 3 nights ago, when you saw me in that red dress and finally remembered who I really am. The woman I can't live without. The woman you don't have to live without. She kissed his chest. I'm right here. I'm always going to be right here. Promise. Promise. And as the city lights filtered through their window and the future stretched ahead full of danger and possibility, they held each other close. 2 people who'd almost lost everything, but had found their way back through honesty and vulnerability and the kind of love that doesn't break even when tested to its limits. The red dress hung in Amara's closet, a reminder of the night everything changed. She'd wear it again someday, she knew, but not to get Miho's attention, because she already had it. Completely. Permanently. In all the ways that mattered. 6 months later, the Min family's reputation had shifted. Word spread through Seoul's underground that Miho Min had a secret weapon, a wife who could negotiate like she'd been born into the life, who saw 3 steps ahead, who commanded respect without ever raising her voice. Other families started requesting her presence at meetings. Some even went directly through her instead of Miho. She handled it all with the same quiet competence she brought to everything, and Miho watched with pride as she grew into the role she'd always been meant to play. They still fought sometimes, still had moments where old fears tried to surface, where communication broke down, where the stress of their dangerous life threatened to pull them apart. But they'd learned the lesson that 3 weeks of silence had taught them. That love without honesty is just pretending. That partnership means sharing the weight. And that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is admit you're scared and ask for help. On their 7th wedding anniversary, Miho gave Amara a gift wrapped in red silk. Inside was a delicate necklace with a single ruby pendant shaped like a drop of blood. For the dress that saved us, he said as he fastened it around her neck. And for the woman brave enough to wear it. It's beautiful. She touched the stone, warm against her skin. You're beautiful, inside and out, strong and soft, dangerous and kind. He kissed her shoulder. You're everything I never knew I needed, and everything I can't survive without. Careful, she teased. You're getting sentimental in your old age. Only with you. He pulled her back against his chest. Only ever with you. That night, she wore the red dress again. Not for a reunion or a negotiation or to make a point. Just for him. And when he pulled her close, his hands spanning her waist, his eyes dark with desire and love and gratitude, she knew they'd made it. Through the silence and the fear and the stupid mistakes that could have ended everything. They'd made it because they'd chosen each other. Again and again. In the small moments and the big ones. In the fights and the reconciliations. In the dangerous world they navigated together. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. I love you, he whispered back. More than territory, more than power, more than anything in this world. You're my empire, Amara. You're everything that matters. And as he carried her upstairs, as the red dress pooled on the floor once again, as they lost themselves in each other the way they had countless times before, Amara knew that the real victory wasn't surviving the 3 weeks of silence. It was learning that love isn't about protection or control or keeping someone at a distance to keep them safe. Love is about standing beside someone in the darkness and saying, I see you, all of you, and I'm not going anywhere. That's the kind of love worth fighting for. That's the kind of love that builds empires. That's the kind of love that lasts forever.